We're counting down the 10 most notorious pirates in history, outlaws who ruled the seas, whether by sheer violence, staggering treasure hauls, or relentless infamy. From legendary captains who changed naval warfare to figures whose brutality terrified even their own crews, each made history in their own unforgettable way. Let's begin with number 10. Calico. Jack Rackham cut a striking figure in Caribbean waters between 1718 and 1720, more famous for his flamboyant calico shirts than for any string of daring raids. With a crew rarely larger than 15 aboard his sloop, William Rackham's true legacy sailed not in the number of ships he captured, but in the flag he flew, a white skull and crossbones on black, the Jolly Roger that became the universal symbol of piracy. He also recruited Anne Bonny and Mary Reid, two women who would soon become legends in their own right. Captured drunk by Jonathan Barnett in October 1720, Rackham was hanged in Jamaica a month later. As he awaited the noose, Anne Bonny spat her famous parting words, "If you had fought like a man, you need not have hanged like a dog." François l'Olonnais, born Jean-David No in France, stalked the Caribbean in the 1660s with a reputation so savage that even fellow pirates kept their distance. The Spanish called him the Bane of Spain, and with good reason. He led 300 buccaneers to sack Maracaibo, leaving the city in ruins and its defenders in terror. L'Olonnais was known for cutting prisoners to pieces, and in one notorious incident, reportedly tore out and ate the heart of a Spanish captive to terrify survivors into talking. His cruelty echoed across the region until he met a fate as gruesome as his legend. Captured and killed by an indigenous tribe in Panama, his body consumed, according to missionary diaries and Spanish reports. Samuel Bellamy, better known as Black Sam, stormed onto the Atlantic scene in 1716 with a hunger for ships, treasure, and a future with his lover Maria Hallett. In less than a year, Bellamy captured over 50 vessels, earning the title Prince of Pirates. But his most remarkable act came after taking the slave ship Whydah Galley. He freed every enslaved person aboard and offered them a choice: join his crew or walk free. Bellamy's reign ended at just 28 when the Whydah sank off Cape Cod in a violent storm. Centuries later, divers uncovered the wreck and more than $400 million in gold, sealing Bellamy's legend as both ruthless and unexpectedly humane. Sir Francis Drake sailed into legend, not as a pirate, but as England's most daring privateer, a man whose raids blurred the line between national hero and international outlaw. Between 1577 and 1580, Drake became the first Englishman to circumnavigate the globe, plundering Spanish ports and treasure ships along the Pacific coast. Spanish sailors called him El Drake, the dragon, cursing his name as he emptied their holds of gold and silver. Queen Elizabeth I rewarded his exploits by knighting him aboard the Golden Hind in 1581, transforming a sea marauder into a celebrated English gentleman. Drake's fortune and fame grew, yet to Spain he remained a pirate with royal backing, his exploits fueling a rivalry that would soon ignite into open war. He died of dysentery off Panama in 1596, but his legend, part patriot, part pirate, still divides the history books. William Kidd set out from London in 1695 not as a pirate, but as a commissioned hunter of pirates. The Crown's orders were clear: bring outlaws to justice and protect British interests in the Indian Ocean. But the line between pirate and privateer blurred quickly. Kidd's crew, hungry for plunder, pushed him to capture the Kedar Merchant, a massive Armenian ship loaded with gold, silver, silks, and spices. The haul made headlines and enemies. Sensing danger, Kidd buried part of his treasure on Gardiner's Island off New York, hoping to bargain for his life. Instead, he was arrested in Boston and shipped to London. His trial was a spectacle. Letters and logs showed murky orders, but politics demanded a scapegoat. The gallows failed him twice before the third drop finally ended his life. Kidd's tarred body hung in an iron cage over the Thames, a warning to any who dared follow his path. Anne Bonny and Mary Reid shattered every rule of their time, carving their names into pirate history in 1720. Disguised in men's jackets and trousers, pistols at their hips, they fought side by side with Calico Jack's crew. When pirate hunters stormed their ship near Jamaica, the men hid below deck, too drunk or frightened to fight. Only Bonnie and Red stood their ground, firing pistols and shouting at the cowards below to fight like men, a challenge recorded in court testimony. Captured and sentenced to hang, both women claimed pregnancy to escape the noose, a tactic known as pleading the belly. Mary Read died in prison the next year, but Anne Bonny's fate vanished into rumor, her ultimate end still lost to history. Their defiance made them legends, proof that piracy's most notorious figures weren't always men. Henry Morgan stormed the Caribbean in the late 1600s, wielding both sword and royal favor with ruthless efficiency. In 1668, he attacked Portobello with a force of buccaneers, forcing captured Spanish clergy and civilians to march as living shields at the front lines, a tactic so shocking that Spanish officials denounced him in letters to Madrid. Morgan's campaigns reached their peak in 1671, when he led 1,200 men to burn Panama City to the ground, ignoring the peace treaty just signed between England and Spain. Instead of facing justice, Morgan was shipped to London but never stood trial. Within 2 years, King Charles II knighted him and sent him back as Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica. Morgan spent his final years hunting former pirate allies and drinking himself to death, dying in 1688 with full military honors. His rise from infamous raider to colonial governor reveals just how thin the line was between outlaw and empire. Bartholomew Roberts, known to friend and foe as Black Bart, stands alone in pirate history for sheer scale and discipline. Between 1719 and 1722, Roberts captured more than 400 ships, a number unmatched by any other. He ruled his decks in a crimson waistcoat and feathered hat, but his most lasting legacy was the code he enforced, the Articles of Agreement. Every crew member had a vote, shares were divided by rank, and those wounded in battle received compensation, a kind of pirate insurance, rare for its time. Roberts demanded order, banning gambling and drunkenness, and he refused to fight on Sundays, holding religious services aboard ship. His black flag alone was enough to make merchant crews surrender without a shot, but even a record like his could not last forever. In February 1722, a broadside from HMS Swallow killed him off the coast of West Africa. His crew, honoring his wishes, slipped his body into the sea, and with his death, the golden age of piracy began to fade. Chingshi rose from the crowded streets of Canton to command a pirate force that eclipsed every Western legend. By 1807, she ruled a confederation of 6 fleets, each flying its own color, and at its height her armada counted as many as 1,800 ships, and between 70,000 and 80,000 pirates. No Caribbean raider ever matched her reach. Order was enforced by a strict code. Any pirate who stole from the Confederation or harmed a woman without consent faced execution. Loot was registered and divided by rank, desertion meant death, and even consensual relationships required permission. For nearly a decade, Qingshi's pirates blockaded the Pearl River, defeated Chinese naval expeditions, and dictated terms to terrified merchants from Macau to Vietnam. When the Qing dynasty finally offered amnesty in 1810, she negotiated from strength, keeping 200 ships, her fortune, and her freedom. Qingshi retired to run a gambling house in Canton, dying wealthy and unpunished in 1844. No pirate, east or west, ever matched her scale of power or walked away so completely victorious. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, became the living nightmare of colonial America in just 2 years at sea. He stood over 6 feet tall, his thick black beard braided and tied with colored ribbons, but it was his signature trick that froze sailors in place. Before battle, Blackbeard tucked slow-burning fuses under his hat and lit them, wrapping his face in a haze of smoke. The effect was so terrifying that entire crews surrendered without a fight, convinced they faced a demon. In 1718, Blackbeard seized the French slave ship La Concorde, refitted her with 40 cannons, and renamed her Queen Anne's Revenge. With a crew of 300, he prowled the Atlantic, capturing over 40 ships in just 15 months. His most infamous moment came when he blockaded Charleston, South Carolina for a week, holding the city hostage until officials delivered a chest of medicine. Despite his fearsome reputation, colonial newspapers and Maynard's own report found no evidence he killed captives. Terror alone did the work. Blackbeard's end was as dramatic as his legend. On November 22nd, 1718, Lieutenant Robert Maynard ambushed him off North Carolina. Blackbeard took 25 wounds, 5 bullets, 20 sword cuts before he fell. His head was hung from Maynard's bowsprit as proof. Nearly 3 centuries later, divers discovered the wreck of Queen Anne's Revenge in 1996, pulling thousands of artifacts from the sand and cementing Blackbeard's place as the world's most iconic pirate. No other name so completely shaped the legend of piracy. From Calico Jack's iconic skull and crossbones to Blackbeard's smoke-filled battles and Ching-Shi's vast armada, this countdown has revealed the 10 most notorious pirates in history. Across all entries, one pattern stands out. Notoriety is forged not just by violence or stolen treasure, but by sheer audacity and lasting impact. Some pirates, like Francois l'Olonais, shocked even their peers with brutality, while others, like Anne Bonny and Mary Rudd, shattered gender boundaries on the high seas. Several walked a fine line between outlaw and official, using political connections to escape the gallows or even gain titles. Whether terrorizing the Caribbean or commanding fleets in the South China Sea, these figures changed naval warfare, inspired pirate codes, and left legends that still shape our image of piracy today. In every case, what set them apart wasn't just what they stole, but how boldly they defied the world. The story of history's most notorious pirates is a testament to ambition, ruthlessness, and the power of myth that endures long after the cannon smoke is cleared.